So why lots of highly sensitive, spiritual, heart-centered, empathetic men who have been developing themselves in this whole field of self-actualization and self-healing and self-mastery and personal development and all of these incredible things actually really struggle in today's world? Now, I speak here from lots of personal experience because basically I only grew up with my father. My parents went through a divorce when I was 10 years old, and my mother decided to live at the other side of the province, and I decided to live with my dad. Now, that wasn't really like a common thing, so I went through loads of cases in courthouse so my dad could get the custody over me. But only through lots of child protection schemes and all of that until I was 16 years old. So what that meant is that, first of all, my dad projected like lots of limited beliefs, like women can't be trusted and all of that they are after your money and all of these things. So what I experienced within my own childhood was a completely out of balance between the masculine and the feminine, and the only thing that I was doing basically is to distract myself in lots of addictive behaviors, like smoking since I was 12 years old, drinking since I was 14. I was starting to work 60 hours a week when I was 16, and I started my first business basically when I was 20 years old. Came out of college, I didn't really know what I was about to do. I was either joining the Dutch Marine Corps or go to college and study something like shipping and logistics management, which I didn't really feel like doing, but I did it anyway to please my dad. And then I came out of college, worked in the corporate world for about 13 months, struggled with depression, anxiety and all of that, and I thought I need to go and work even harder because that's basically all that I know, which I did. But with the motivation, the extrinsic motivation to please my dad, because the only thing that he valued was working hard and making money and looking after external things. Now, as you can imagine, that was what I was doing because I was in search, when I was in my early 20s, the approval of my dad. I started careers in marketing and sales and affiliate marketing and building marketing teams and training and coaching. And it took me about 2.5 years before I was finally hitting 10,000–15,000 euros a month. But then I had rock bottom. I struggled with burnout, anxiety, stress, chronic fatigue and all of these things. And then the whole thing completely switched upside down. Because of my burnout and anxiety, I started to join these spiritual workshops and retreats. I followed like 1.5 years of spirit coaching. But here's the problem, and that's really that is the point of this video. When we as men go to the spiritual healing workshop because we go through the voids we have once experienced in our childhood, the emotional neglect, the emotional abuse, and you name it, we go to these workshops and 9 out of 10 times they are run by female therapists, healers, and 80–90% of the attendees are women overall. So all the spirituality we are basically seeing right now in today's world is more tailored towards the woman, towards the feminine. Why? Because we live in a world that is built by the dominant character, the patriarchy of masculine energy, of power, control and dominance, and that is really like the kind of like out of balance energy that we see in today's world. And women who want their independence, they also have to adapt to lots of masculine kind of energy in order to go and get ahead in life. So even women are of course struggling in today's world as well. So that's why we have these workshops to get more in touch with your feminine energy. Now, sometimes we need that, because I needed that, because I only grew up with my dad without my mom, so I didn't really have lots of feminine influence of tuning into our intuition and all of these beautiful feminine qualities, like being able to allow and surrender and get into a flow state, into our creative energies and these type of qualities that we as men can also have access to. But the masculine energy or spiritual masculine energy is different. So of course I went through a couple of, let's say, called like Kundalini activations and out-of-body experiences, and I started really to open up, let's say, my higher chakras of the third eye, the crown, and also the heart chakra, which was of course completely blocked. We become more sensitive and empathetic, and we want to please our external world. We want to make everyone kind of comfortable, and we don't really want to cause pain or hurt. We don't want to be this dominant character anymore. And it's almost like most of the time when you go to these type of workshop retreats, is the men you see at these kind of retreats, they are kind of like really adaptive to this type of environments, like the clothing, their appearance, and wearing almost like bright, colorful purple clothes and whatnot. Now, I'm not judging, it's just an observation. So, spirituality for men, the masculine, embracing more of the masculine energy, is not what I believe is what we see in today's world. I think it's a different kind of energy that we must embrace. Sure, let's say that we as men, we have like 80% of masculine energy and maybe 20% of feminine energy, which is very needed, because once again, when we don't have these feminine energies, then of course we burn out. It's obvious. If we are always constantly in the action mode of getting out there, hustle, grind, work, and looking after the external things, and we don't recognize the internal things which we are neglecting, or we are finding addictive behaviors to suppress the voids that exist within us, then of course we burn out and struggle with stress and chronic fatigue and depression and emptiness and all of that. Of course we become addictive to all the vices that we currently can have access to. So that's an important thing to recognize. But to truly embrace the spiritual masculine archetype, it's very important is that we embrace the warrior kind of archetype of fighting for what we really want in our life, is to bite our teeth into that. Because if we are, let's say, this completely like emotional, mature, spiritual, sensitive, empathetic men, sensitive men, up in the higher realms, we see all this holistic great things of how the world is actually connected, and we are kind of like floating around in this kind of like poetic state of being. Especially me as a Pisces man, this is already much more within my nature than, you know, feeling really grounded and integrated. As a water sign, I go with, you know, the flows of life, or where life is taking me. And as a man, I'm not always that pleased with that either. Being this creative, artistic kind of person. So that's why I think it's also important to maybe look at more of the masculine traits of being the warrior, of really getting after the things, of stepping into our personal powers of entrepreneurship and marketing and sales, and going into these type of roles. Otherwise, we will be nothing more than a floating feather in the wind, or like a little candle in the wind that gets blown out when the rain sets in. Powerful words by Elton John. So it is important is to become like rock steady, is to become integrated, is to become grounded. Is yes, we must be in alignment between the higher self and the conscious self, and also diving into the lower self in our shadow aspect, which also includes the inner child aspect, that we as grown-ups, we have an adult body, but we still carry the young boy inside of us that never got his needs met through the emotional neglect and abuse, and that little boy always feels rejected. It feels neglected. No matter what we try to do in the world, we post a video, nobody watches us, We put on the judgments towards ourselves, we criticize ourselves. You see, I'm not good enough. You see, nobody cares. You see, I'm nothing more than this tiny little isolated drop of water in a freaking desert where nobody sees me. I'm alone, I'm empty, and yada yada yada. That's the story of the young boy, the inner child that never got recognized, never got appreciated, never got any respect, that always had to, prove itself, prove its worth through accomplishments, and that's kind of really where we are at. So this is, once again, it is what I'm coming back to. I keep coming back to this because inner child healing work, facing our shadows. The shadow work is probably one of the most important things we must do. Yes, like part of the warrior archetype is getting out in the world through our secondary purpose of the contributions that we must make, but the warrior archetype is also embracing our primary purpose in life, which is that part of the spiritual warrior facing all our demons and shadow aspects that exist here in our lower base chakras. And as highly sensitive spiritual men, we see the world around us, all how corrupt it is, how wrecked the world is, and we don't want to be part of it. We want to live in our cozy little fantasy bubble, floating around in the higher realms, the higher dimensions, living together with the spirit guides, with the angels and higher consciousness. But we can't bring it here onto earth. We can't seem to package it in our own ideas and businesses and coaching programs or the solutions that we want to provide. Free humanity from enslavements of today's world, emotionally, spiritually, financially, which is all part of it. Or the enslavements that we have with all the toxic foods that we are enslaved to, which is of course like also really highly disconnecting us from our true authentic self and from source spirit. So that's kind of like a quick message that I wanted to share with you. As spiritual, sensitive, empathetic men, yes, we are doing the work, the inner work of opening up the heart, connecting with the higher realms through the third eye, but we must find a way to embody it, shift our identity, integrate it within our power centers, create a sense of emotional stability within ourselves, within the sacral chakra, and of course find that place of knowing our place here in the world on the root chakra, feeling grounded, feeling connected with the earth, know exactly like, hey, I've been there, I've done that, but now I came back to go and bring this to the world. I think that's kind of like the warrior aspects that exist within us. So we can build the kingdom, not only the kingdom within the hearts, but also the kingdom of our legacy, of that what we want to bring to the world. And then once again we can come back to being a true lover and the magician, of being able to channel higher wisdom, insights and inspiration that we must bring forward to the world. So it is that balance of the king, the warrior, the magician and the lover. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, simply drop a comment below. Also make sure to subscribe, like, share this video where we dive further into different kind of spiritual or shamanic archetypes from our ancient past as well, because in my previous video I also spoke about that. That's another part that we are opening up to, that we can integrate as well, to bring the knowledge and the information, the wisdom from our ancestors, to become stronger in a world that does everything it can to lower our consciousness. Anyway, I look forward to see you on my next videos. Take care for now. Bye bye.